So a Georgia audit found 20 non-citizens registered to vote. 9 of them ended up voting in a previous election.
20?
Yeah, let me finish. In Michigan,
After how many years?
you know, it's funny when you guys mock small amounts, but let's remember that Marionette Miller Meeks won her 2020 election by 6 votes. Okay. Imagine if there were 6 fraudulent
6
votes.
undocumented immigrants?
No,
they weren't.
My point is that some elections are decided quite literally on the margins, and every vote counts.
But not a single presidential election has been decided by a margin of non-citizen voters.
Can I finish my point? That doesn't, just because it doesn't impact a presidential election, does not mean that it is not worthy of attention.
What is the percentage of fraudulent non-citizen voting in America?
I don't have the percentage, but I have more examples if you guys wouldn't cut me off. Let me just finish. Exactly.
I don't know.
Hold on a second. 41 non-citizens cast a ballot in North Carolina in 2016. 1,500 foreigners registered to vote in California by the state DMV. They were not citizens in 2018.
Oh, did they? Were they caught?
Did they vote?
Actually,
did they vote?
They're just registered to vote. That doesn't mean they vote.
As a non-citizen is legal.
So,
According to 18 U.S. Code, Section 1015, subsection F says that anyone who knowingly makes a false statement when registering to vote can get jail time.
Here's the thing. I wanted you to go through it because I think it illustrates in and of itself how actually incredibly rare this is. And even when, the Heritage Foundation went looking for non-citizens voting over the course of 10 plus years, they found 77 cases, actually more than 10 years, about 24 years. They found 77 instances of non-voters voting, and they went looking, okay? So listen, if this were about people, non-citizens voting, maybe that's the case, then please help me explain why Trump is still obsessed with Georgia, where he was looking for 11,000 votes, where Georgia, they've got voter ID, they've got tough voting laws. Why is he saying that Georgia was a fraudulent state?
The thing that's crazy to me is that, we have Trump trying to steal the 2020 election, so much evidence of it. The fake elector slate, for example. You have Jack Smith literally saying, if I was able to finish my job, he would be in jail. He would be in jail. There's no way around it. So here you have a former president, current president of the United States, tried to steal an election. She doesn't bring that up at all, but we found 77 people who voted illegally
over the course of 24 years.
You're right. Yeah. So this is crazy. We need to do something about this. And of course, the irony is it's projection. They're using that argument to then allow them to try to steal the next election by using, hey, send in ICE, as sloppy Steve Bannon is saying now. We're going to send in ICE at the polling places, or seize the ballots in Fulton County and, get in there and learn how the voting machines work so we can fuck around with it after the fact. So it's always the classic projection thing where it's like, we're going to accuse you of what we're guilty of, and we're going to then use that to set ourselves up to commit the crime. That's not to say that the opposition is doing good, because the opposition is pathetic, I think is the best word to use here. But Chuck Schumer was on Morning Joe, and he said that ICE should be allowed to wear masks in, quote, unusual circumstances. He said, some guy's picture was put up by a terrorist group or something. Bro, what? What are you talking about? Well, they consider Antifa to be a terrorist group. Even though they're not actually a terrorist group, they consider Antifa to be a terrorist group. Okay? So what Chuck Schumer is doing here is backing off of something that's bare minimum, bro. Bare minimum. Wearing masks as a public servant is not a thing. When you think of police officers, for example, if one of them does something fucked up, you get their name, you get their badge number immediately. You can file something to say, hey, I have a complaint. There was excessive force or whatever it may be. But the ICE Gestapo thugs, they're little bitches, and they're hiding their faces because they know they're committing crimes. And Chuck Schumer initially said, you need to show your face, full stop. And now he's saying, well, God, I guess in some circumstances, I guess you can kind of maybe sort of not, cover your face if there's some real extreme circumstances where an Antifa super soldier is coming after you. Oh, God. Bro, really? What did I tell you guys? They had a list of 10 demands of hey, here's what needs to happen in order for Democrats to vote for any DHS funding. But the list of demands, none of it touches the funding. But the funding was just skyrocketed to over $100 billion by the big bullshit bill that they passed in the summer. So now you would need a 66% cut to DHS funding to just get it back to 2024 levels. The only way you can actually make a dent and leave an impact on the ICE Gestapo thugs is if you defund the DHS or massively cut the DHS, and that wasn't even a demand of Chuck Schumer. It wasn't even a demand. They said like, oh, give me some masks and you need warrants, which by the way, that's already the law according to the Constitution, it's the supreme law of the land, that they need warrants and they're not using warrants. So why would, you're just like making a deal with them for them to follow the Constitution, which they need to follow anyway? No, this is fucking crazy. You have to cut their funding. So Chuck Schumer embarrassing himself, these like minimal demands that he made, he's already negotiating against himself already with those. He's just not fit, bro. You got to step aside. You got to retire. It's over. It's done. You're useless. Then he was out there the other day giving a speech saying, I'll make sure we give more money to Israel and we give them all the money they need. It's like, bro, read the fucking room. Read the room. Like 90% of the Democratic base is like, fuck Israel, and they're doing a genocide. And he doesn't care. He doesn't care because he's bought and owned by the Israel lobby, okay? So he doesn't care. So he'd rather represent the donor class. He'd rather represent Zionists than he would Democratic voters. But at the same time that's happening, Trump's approval rating among white voters turned negative for the first time in his entire presidency. So as you all know, the people that consistently have the worst politics in the country as a demographic group, it's old white men, right? And, you know, anytime you look at a polling breakdown by demographics, you know, you generally see the further away you get from being a white man, the more the Democrats' numbers go up. Well, so white voters have been like the core solid block of pro-Trump voters that really propelled him to victory multiple times. Well, now for him to go negative among white voters is just, I mean, homie is cooked beyond imagination. Now there's nobody left. Now there's nobody left. All the gains he made with Hispanics, gone and then some. All the gains he made with independents, all the gains he made with young people, gone and then some. And now you're losing white voters? White voters? Really? So it's a sign, bro. People are fed up. People are sick of it. And yeah, they're a mess. They're a mess. The regime is a mess. And again, I don't see them making a comeback in any way. All right, let me give you guys some more. Scoop, Trump's FBI summoned state election officials from across the country for an unusual briefing on preparations for the midterms, according to emails I obtained. It's the strangest thing in the world, one top state election official told me. So this is a guy from Matt Berg from Crooked Media, and what he's talking about here is, it looks like there's some organization happening behind the scenes, but this isn't even really behind the scenes anymore, it's in front of the scenes now, where they're trying to effectively set up stealing the election. For the FBI to summon state election officials for the election, the federal government's not supposed to have anything to do with elections. This is a state-run thing. But they're now having the federal government involved. Why? For the exact reason you think. It's the exact same reason why Tulsi Gabbard went to Fulton County in Georgia and seized the ballots. Like, they are planning what to do in 2026 and probably in 2028. And they are going to try to cut corners. They're going to try to cheat. They're going to try to put their thumb on the scale. Everybody needs to be aware of it. Everybody needs to be ready for it because they're not hiding it. That's why Trump keeps saying stuff like, we shouldn't even have an election when you really think about it. We shouldn't even have an election. Now you have the FBI, Kash Patel's FBI meeting with election officials at the state level. And then you also have sloppy Steve Bannon coming out and saying, we're going to send ICE thugs to the polling places. Like, no, they're broadcasting it, bro. They are broadcasting it. You got to wake up. You got to realize what's happening. And then don't even get me started on the SAVE Act, which they just proposed. I think it's the SAVE Act. It's basically an attempt to create the strictest voting laws ever, and in order to do ballot spoiling and ballot purging and kick a bunch of people off the ballots. That's exactly what ICE is doing when they're going around recording people, the observers. What they do is they put them in a database, consider them domestic terrorists, and also they kick them off the voter rolls. And so if you're out there and you're protesting ICE, make sure you check your voter registration because they're actively kicking people off the voter rolls if they think you're a Democrat and they think all of the observers are Democrats. So just absolutely devastating stuff. And prepare yourself for what's coming because there's no way they're going to go silently into the night. It's not going to happen. But now let's talk a little bit about what Trump is up to. I mean, holy shit, man. Every time you wake up, you think, okay, we had to have hit rock bottom, right? We had to have. Because there's so much dirt on this man. There's so many scandals on a regular basis that you think, like, they can't actually go any lower, can they? Well, it turns out Trump indeed can do that, and he did. So I'm sure you've all seen this by now, but Trump decided to repost a video on Lie Social. And in that video, it included both Michelle Obama and Barack Obama as apes, as literal monkeys. You freeze frame the video, you pause the video at like 59 seconds. It's about a minute and 2 seconds long. And very clearly, you see Michelle Obama and Barack Obama as monkeys. Tasteless doesn't even begin to describe this man. Let's be honest, he's a fat, pedophile, rapist, war criminal, corrupt goon. Okay? He's as low as they come. But this even is a bridge too far for some of the soulless Republicans. I should also say, after he posted this thing comparing the former president and the former first lady to fucking monkeys, yes, because they're black, that's why he did this, right? He then went on to post a video, I'm not kidding about this, that accused the Democratic Party of being anti-black. Yes, accused Democrats of being racist immediately after you post the Obamas as monkeys. I'm sure that'll go over well. I'm sure that'll land well. But it gets more interesting from there because the White House, first they came out and said, oh, shut the fuck up. This is fake outrage. It's just a video meme from The Lion King. Stop with the bullshit. Nobody's actually upset about this. So that's what, whatever the fuck her name is, the blonde-haired woman that has way too much plastic surgery and she's married to like a 78-year-old even though she's like in her 20s or early 30s. That's what she said. I don't know why I'm blanking on her name right now. But then the White House came out soon thereafter and actually said, oh, wait, our bad. Forget everything we said before. This actually was erroneously posted by some staffer. Caroline Levitt, that's the idiot's name. Oh, our bad. No. It wasn't, Trump didn't post it. It was somebody else who posted it. One of the staffers just posted it. So then everybody was like, well, hold on now. A random staffer is allowed to post videos directly to Trump's account at all hours through the night? What? So they replaced one scandal with another scandal. But, the second thing is not really a scandal because everybody knows he's lying. All he does is lie. Everybody knows that's a lie.
One guest that did entertain Joe's theories around Jeffrey Epstein's death, though, was none other than Barry Weiss, who is a New York Times opinion writer turned independent commentator and is married to a woman who was just named in the Epstein files, Nellie Bolt.
Super close. So Barry Weiss's wife was super close with Epstein. They had a really, really chummy relationship. The other thing we now know, based on the files, is that effectively Barry Weiss is trying to turn CBS into Epstein Media. I wish I was kidding, but I'm not kidding. She keeps hiring all these people who were close to Epstein, whether it be Alan Dershowitz or Peter Attia. And the whole point of CBS now is to run cover for MAGA, run cover for Israel, and bring back Epstein-style reactionary centrism. That's what it is. It's literally a psyop. This is a psyop for MAGA and for Israel. And again, hiring all these people with close Epstein connections.
Who actually went back and forth with Epstein and seemingly met up with him a bunch of times, accompanied by Barry Weiss. And so when Joe brings up Epstein's death, she seems to entertain the conspiracy theory a little, but then quickly makes it seem not even that important. She even admits to knowing a bunch of people who hung out with Epstein when he was alive, saying that everyone knew about his crimes and didn't do anything about it, which of course just flies right over Joe's shiny bald head.
Can we just agree that he was murdered? If you had all your chips on the table,
Yes.
like Barry, you got to go all in. What are you going to do?
There are too many coincidences
Yeah.
to make it plausible that Jeffrey Epstein.
No one knows.
No one knows that.
No,
but what
we
people
don't know.
knew, no, meaning,
Someone must
But
know.
what I was going to say is I've talked to enough people that knew him, met him, went to parties at his house, and said everyone knew this about him. It was like a Harvey Weinstein thing,
Right.
In the sense of the young women,
Yeah.
or in the sense that everyone knew about Bill Cosby that came into contact with
Yes.
him. There were things that were just agreed to never speak about. You know,
Right.
it's it's just absolutely sick. I was when the story broke about him hanging himself, I was obsessed for a few days, but then I had to move on to other
course,
things. The world is a big place.
That's what they're
She's
hoping
getting beaten
for.
in the streets. Yeah, but it's also there actually are things that are more important to me than the
Yes.
story of Jeffrey Epstein.
Right.
And I hope that there's some investigative journalist digging into the truth of what happened there.
But to be fair to Joe here, he honestly seems like he didn't know Barry's connection to Epstein during this podcast from 2020. But now that she's named in the files as her wife's quote-unquote babe by Epstein, and now that she just hired Dr. Peter Attia at CBS, who is deeply affiliated with Epstein, the whole thing just looks pretty bad for Joseph Rogan. And you
So shout out to CoffeeZilla. He posted a video on his Voidzilla channel here going through it. Let's watch it, then I'll come back and give you a lot more. Here we go.
The FBI just dropped 3.5 million files, and it is incredible. Huge bombshells about some of the most powerful people on the planet. I can't believe they let some of this stuff out. I mean, it is stunning. Honestly, one of the biggest lies we've seen is the idea that the FBI could possibly come to us and say, not only is there not a client list, there was no credible evidence that Epstein blackmailed prominent individuals. Guys, we're about to see planned blackmail to one of the most powerful people on the planet, and that is Bill Gates. Listen, there's a lot we're going to get to, but we have to start with probably the craziest revelation here, which is Jeffrey Epstein emailing himself about Bill Gates. Now, if you don't know, Bill Gates and Epstein had a relationship post-2008. That's a big year. You're going to hear a lot today, because 2008 was the time that Epstein pled guilty for soliciting of somebody under the age of 18. He was a predator at this point. Everybody knew it. Now, eventually, Bill Gates would get divorced when all of this came out. Melinda Gates said it was part of the direct cause for the divorce. She said she met Epstein and said he was evil.
He was evil personified.
So you have to understand, this is like Bill Gates' kryptonite. He's one of the richest men on the planet. He's got this huge philanthropy arm. But this relationship with Epstein has been a huge problem for him. And Epstein appears to have known that, because in 2013, Bill Gates appears to be distancing himself from Jeffrey Epstein. And Epstein seems to have a problem with that. He says, I assume the dedication to our relation went both ways. Larry has now asked me to recommit to a confidentiality agreement. Basically, he's got to shut up about his relationship with Bill Gates. And this is where the blackmail starts, and it comes in the form of like, if I were you, I would do X if I were the type of guy that you should be. He says, in that regard, I suggest I buy you the house that you had your heart set on. In addition to 5 years of severance, we'll buy you out of the investment contract we agreed upon, 30 to 40% of an $100 million partnership for $30 million in today's terms. That's what I would have done had I been in your shoes. Then he lays out what he has on Bill Gates, or what he says he has. Quote, to add insult to injury, you subsequently, with tears in your eyes, implore me to delete the emails I had regarding your STD. Your request that I provide you antibiotics that you could surreptitiously give to Melinda, and the description of your I mean, this is insane. It's completely insane. It's like basically laying out in text form, I would give me millions of dollars, and I can't believe you're asking me to delete the message where you were going to give STD medication to your wife without her knowledge. I mean, it's complete. It's crazy. It's just completely obvious what he's doing here. It's just a nudge, nudge, wink, wink. Here's what you should do. But now that coming out after Epstein's death, this looks really bad for Gates, obviously, because you usually wouldn't blackmail somebody for something that's completely false or fake. I mean, maybe he did that. But we also know Bill Gates had affairs. Obviously, Melinda credits it for their divorce. So it's hard to believe there was nothing sketchy going on. Bill Gates, of course, maintains that it was completely above board. He says the fact this allegation was in here just shows how much Epstein was willing to defame people. But Epstein lays it out. He says he helped Bill get drugs in order to deal with the consequences of sex with Russian girls, facilitating his illicit trysts with married women, and to being asked to provide Adderall for bridge tournaments. Look, guys, this is exactly what we suspected the whole time. Epstein was providing services to rich people and expecting payment via blackmail. But they can't even keep their story straight. I mean, that's what's crazy. They're not even competent at this. They get caught in their own lies all the time. Remember, the FBI's official story was they didn't blackmail. Well, before we even had these files, Howard Lutnick was on the record calling Jeffrey Epstein the greatest blackmailer ever.
So how come Bill Gates and all these other people could hang around him and not see what you saw? Or did they see it and ignore it? Or
no, they participated.
Right.
That's what his MO was, get a massage. And what happened in that massage room, I assume, was on video. This guy was the greatest blackmailer ever.
Interesting. Okay, so Howard has a different perspective. Now, if you don't know, that guy, do you think he's just telling the truth there? Even this guy who's contradicting the official narrative, this guy literally lived next to Jeffrey Epstein. This guy who's like, I'm going to tell the truth. Those guys participated. That guy lives next to Jeffrey Epstein. And by the way, he lied too. I love this video we're about to get into because this guy, Mr. He's the greatest blackmailer ever, does he know something we don't know? Because it's interesting, Mr. I'm his neighbor had to also explain how he had nothing to do with Jeffrey Epstein. And he lays it out pretty simply. He goes, yep, I lived next to him, but in 2005, I had such a horrible experience that I knew I could never talk to him again.
He was your neighbor for 10 years. How well did you know him?
We move in 2005, okay? Jeffrey Epstein is arrested in like 08, I think, or something like that. Right. So knock on the door. His assistant on like a Saturday says, Mr. Epstein, your neighbor would like to invite you over for coffee. And there's a massage table in the middle of the room. Massage table in the middle of your house? How often do you have a massage? And he says, every day. And then he gets weirdly close to me. Ooh. And he says, and the right kind of massage.
Ooh.
Now my wife is standing here. So she looks at me and I look at her and we say, I'm sorry, we have to go. And we left. And in the 6 or 8 steps it takes to get from his house to my house, my wife and I decided that I will never be in the room with that disgusting person ever again.
Well, he couldn't be more clear, could he, right? He says, hey, I may have been his next door neighbor, But I met him once before the 2008 guilty plea. Remember I said that was a big deal? And we got invited over, and it was like 5 seconds, and we left, and we realized he was a creep. We were out of there. He made this rude, lewd comment in front of my wife. I would never go see this guy. I mean, he makes it super clear he's gross.
So I was never in the room with him socially, for business, or for even philanthropy. If that guy was there, I wasn't going because he's gross.
These other guys, they may have participated.
They participated.
But Howard Lutnick, he could never. No. He's too good of a guy. Well, guess what we found in the all emails? Looky. It's Howard Lutnick writing in to Jeffy Boy in 2012. Hi, Jeff. We're landing in St. Thomas early afternoon, planning to head over. Where are you located? What's the exact location for my captain? Does Sunday evening for dinner sound good? Is this the guy you said made a lewd comment to your wife? And, I could never be in front of him. He's gross. Guess what the next email is? My boy's wife messaging in. We've been lied to also by another richest guy on the planet. Geez, it's a shock why they don't want to put this out. Elon Musk, who has been saying for years that it is a lie that he went to Epstein's island. In fact, he says he refused to go. From Elon, he says, Epstein tried to get me to go to his island. I refused. He says, anyone pushing this false narrative deserves complete contempt. Later responding to another headline, which said Elon Musk planned trip to Epstein's private island. And he says, this is false. But of course, we start to dig through the files and we can see on Epstein.
Dog, you're caught in black and white, bro. Stop trying to weasel your way out of it. We've all seen the emails now. He literally was like, can I please come to your wildest party? I would really like to cut loose. I would really like the island experience. Wink, wink. Like, bro, you are so caught. And such a loser that you had the pedophile billionaire cabal of elites going, I don't know if I want this guy there, bro.
Calendar that Elon Musk is booked in December 6th of 2014. But maybe you don't believe that. That's just the word of Jeffrey Epstein. But maybe you'll believe the word of Elon Musk, who was caught emailing Jeffrey Epstein to go to his island post the guilty plea. Elon Musk writes, we'll be in BVI St. Bart's area over the holidays. Good time to visit. Jeffrey Epstein says, I will send a heli for you. Later, Elon Musk writes to Epstein, probably just to Lula and me, his ex-wife, what day and night would be the wildest party on your island? The world's richest man is asking the most vile man for the wildest party on his island. And then it gets more explicit. In 2012, remember, this guy said, I refused it. I could never do that, right? It's false. But here in 2012, he says, do you have any parties planned? I've been working to the edge of my sanity this year. I really want to hit the party scene in St. Bart's or elsewhere and let loose. The invitation is much appreciated, but a peaceful island experience is the opposite of what I'm looking for. Guys, he can't even play the I went to go study math excuse, which is what all these guys do. They say, hey, I just went to go talk to scientists. Elon's like, hey, I don't want to do that. I'm looking for a party.
Bro basically wrote down like, Jeffrey, I'm wondering if you have any underage girls to do stuff with my penis. You basically put that down. What a loser. Oh my God. And a criminal.
That's what I'm here to do. And then Jeffrey Epstein writes, understood, I will see you on St. Barth. The ratio on my island might make your ex-wife uncomfortable. I can't believe these guys are lying to us and people are swallowing it still, thinking that Elon Musk had nothing to do with this guy.
By the way, I cannot wait for Joe Rogan to completely and utterly avoid this like the plague, or try to spin it, or have Elon Musk to do damage control. Because those are the options. We know he's not just going to cut Elon off and start telling the truth. We know that's not going to happen. In fact, we're going to go through all these different Epstein files. You'll never guess which one email Joe Rogan found. The one about Bill Gates. Shockingly, missed all the ones about Trump, missed all the ones about Elon, missed all the ones about the Republicans, only found the Bill Gates one. What a hack.
Complaint summary. Blank reported an unidentified female friend who was forced to perform on President Trump approximately 35 years ago in New Jersey. The friend told Alexis that she was approximately 13 to 14 years old when this occurred, and the friend allegedly bit President Trump while performing. The friend was allegedly hit in the face after she laughed about biting President Trump.
This is the Katie Johnson one. Katie Johnson told her whole story, and it's on video, her testimony. We covered it, the entire thing, and reacted to it. And I think this is the exact same allegation.
The friend also said she was abused by Epstein. Later, there's very explosive claims about big parties with her, other younger girls, and older Victoria's Secret models, including Bill Clinton and Donald Trump. There's claims third hand about a female victim of Epstein's who wants to publish a book citing Leslie Wexner, Epstein, Bill Clinton, Donald Trump, Ghislaine Maxwell is in the videos as well. And it goes on like this for a while.
Look at this. Massive breaking. A witness swore under penalty of perjury that Donald Trump threatened a young girl, telling her she could, quote, disappear like another 12-year-old female and then threatened to kill her entire family, according to Epstein-related court records. This allegation appears in dataset 9 of the Epstein file, and then it has the exact file. This is sworn testimony. If the witness fabricated this account, they would face multiple years in federal prison for perjury. So you have different levels of certainty, right? You have the FBI intake form, which could just be something as simple as a tip, could just be somebody hurling an allegation with no evidence, could be real also, though. But then you have stuff like this, which is a level up in terms of certainty that a person was willing to say this under threat of perjury. All right, more. So somebody emailed, do you happen to have anyone with influence over Assad? And Jeffrey Epstein responded, quote, not for email. So what you're going to see here is Jeffrey Epstein was so immensely connected. He was acting in this weird way as like shadow emperor of the world. He had power in virtually every country, one way or another. This is absolutely bonkers stuff here. Let's keep going. Epstein asked the Harvard professor Martin Novak, quote, did you torture her? Did you torture her? And here's the email right here. If you'd like to, you can pause the video and you can see it. Did you torture her? Is what he said. So as I said, going through these files, what became clear to me is that we're not only dealing with a cabal of pedophile billionaire elites who run the world, but many of these people, again, as you'll see, there's reason to believe they're into bestiality, they're into torture, they're into cannibalism, and this extreme wealth that they have, it has rotted their soul and totally blurred the lines between right and wrong, where they act like absolute monsters and animals and dehumanize everybody around them. And there's a lesson in that. There's a lesson in that about billionaires. We shouldn't have any billionaires because apparently they morph into demons. You are going to need to use that little Men in Black flashy thingy to erase your memory by the time we're done with this. So let's start here. In the new Epstein files leak, we have heavy illegal redactions protecting the perpetrators. So this is now the second time that that's happened. It's on purpose. This is totally in contravention of the law. They don't care. There's also doxing of Epstein victims again. Supposedly an accident, but this is now the second time that that's happened as well. You have incriminating documents on Trump posted and then pulled down and then reposted, apparently, when they realized the cat was out of the bag. You have Epstein discussing Trump raping underage girls at his house. You have Elon visiting Epstein Island. You have Bill Gates getting STDs from Russian girls. We have allegations of sex trafficking and auctioning underage kids at Mar-a-Lago. We have Melania's close relationship with Ghislaine exposed. Nobody knew how close they were until this new round of leaks. And you have the Trump pick for Fed chair exposed in the Epstein files as well. So many people, it's like 30 people or something like that in the Trump regime are in the Epstein files and have ties to Epstein, which, you know, leads to very disturbing questions about the nature of power in our country. We also have this. There are more than 5,300 files containing over 38,000 references to Donald Trump in the latest batch of the Epstein files. So I like this reply. Somebody said to me when I posted this out there from the New York Times, there's more mentions of Trump in the Epstein files than Jesus in the Bible. There's around 900 to over 1,200 times in the New Testament they mention Jesus. Like I said, 38,000 references to Donald Trump in the Epstein files. Absolutely incredible. Probably the worst part of these new Epstein files are all of the pages that just say, CSAM, not scanned. And of course, what that means is it is exactly what you think it is. It is pedophilia. And it's pictures, it's videos, and there's a hell of a lot of it. And so, of course, they can't release that. So it says CSAM, not scanned. Absolutely disgusting stuff. This came out the other day, but Ghislaine Maxwell alleged that 29 friends of the notorious sex trafficker Epstein had been protected by the Justice Department by way of secret settlements. Secret settlements. So this might explain why we haven't seen anybody go to prison for the Epstein scandal, is because it looks like the government cut deals with 29 of them, probably including all 10 co-conspirators. I do have some huge breaking news for you right now. So ProPublica has just reported the names of the 2 ICE criminals that murdered Alex Preddy. And the names are Jesus Ochoa?
Yep.
And
Raimundo Gutierrez. Ochoa is a Border Patrol agent, 43 years old. Raimundo Gutierrez is a Customs and Border Protection officer. And Ochoa joined CBP in 2018. Gutierrez joined in 2014.
So the stormtroopers of American fascism are Hispanic. How about that? How about that? It's so crazy. I mean, it's like, I just saw this story the other day about a Cuban American who led some like Latinos for Trump group. He was deported. Like, bro, you think you're on the team, right? You're not on the fucking team, dog. You're not on the team. Try walking around outside in civilian clothes without having your ICE or CBP badge on you. Bro, it's a wrap. They would deport your ass too. They'd throw you in CCOT, the concentration camp too. So it's just so crazy to me that that happens. The fact that we have like, it's like rainbow fascism. It's like a diverse fascism, right? Where the stormtroopers
DEI
of the
fascism.
state, DEI fascism.
Progressivism has been so successful that even our Nazis are diverse.
Straight up.
I'm not
Straight
the
up.
first to observe.
Straight up, bro. It's so crazy to me too. And let's be serious. There's a special place in hell for the minority ICE criminals and CBP criminals. There's a special place in hell. Like I said, you think you're special. You're not special. Trump fucking hates you too. Elon Musk with his Nazi posting on Twitter hates you too. They're not going to say, oh, you're one of the good ones. You're not. They'll shove your ass in that camp quickly too.
Trump was basically prodding every single Republican state, gerrymander to the high heavens, and let's steal more seats. And I do think one of the reasons why he's doing that is because he knows his policies are so unpopular that they're going to get cooked in the midterms if they don't try to put their finger on the scale and fucking, rig everything however they can. Ballot spoiling, ballot purging, voter intimidation, and gerrymandering, right? Well, take a look at this. So townhall.com says, Virginia Governor Spanberger, who's a Democrat, laughs, smiles, and signs the redistricting bill that will disenfranchise about 48% of Republican-leaning voters by packing them into one district. It proposes a 10-1 Democratic advantage, okay? So then, Ted Cruz, me. I'm Ted Cruz. Me. Little weasel boy Ted Cruz chimes in. A brazen abuse of power and an insult to democracy. I'm Ted Cruz. Me. 47% of Virginia voted Trump. They will now get just 9% of the seats. I'm Ted Cruz. 52% of VA voters voted Harris. Now they get 91% of the seats. I'm Ted Cruz. By comparison, in Texas, 56% voted Trump. GOP gets 79% of the seats. I'm Ted Cruz. Okay, so Ted Cruz has that. Ready for this? So L. Louise Lucas comes out. And she is a well-known Virginia Democrat. She's the president pro tempore, Senate of Virginia, representing the 18th District, chairman of the Senate Finance and Appropriations Committee, okay? So she comes out and she quote tweets this, and she says, "You all started it, and we fucking finished it." Damn, Louise! You go get him, girl. Goddamn. You have AOC chimes in and says, "This is the energy. Thank you," with a whole bunch of clapping emojis and the Queen's crown here. You all started it, and we fucking finished it. And ladies and gentlemen, let me say to you in no uncertain terms, zero uncertain terms, okay? You ready for this? As Republicans complain about Virginia restricting redistricting, a reminder that Democrats tried to enact a national ban on partisan gerrymandering. Every single Republican voted no. In other words, the Democratic Party, Democratic politicians all across this country stood up and said, you know what? Let's do the right thing here. Let's make it so nobody can cheat. Nobody can gerrymander. Nobody can redistrict in an unfair way. Let's do these independent boards that redistrict in a neutral, objective way. And we're all going to sign on to it. We're all going to agree to that. Let's stop this race to the bottom. Let's stop this, you guys rig it, we'll counter rig it, etc. Let's just do the right thing across the entire country. So Democrats came out and said that Democrats voted to unrig everything. The entire Republican Party said, fuck you, go kick rocks, we want to rig the shit. So this is in Axios, what Congressman Jamie Raskin saw in the unredacted Epstein files. You ready for this? Representative Jamie Raskin told Axios in an interview Tuesday that when he searched President Trump's name in the unredacted Epstein files the previous day, it came up more than 1 million times. More than 1 million times. Bro, we thought it was record-breaking and colossal and gargantuan and absurd that he was in there 38,000 times in the redacted version and the limited release version of the Epstein files. In the unredacted version, in the full version, 1 million times. I don't even know how to respond to that. They say at least one of the files Raskin found appears to contradict what Trump has publicly claimed about his association with Jeffrey Epstein, according to the House Judiciary Committee ranking member. That document is a 2009 email exchange between Epstein and his associate Ghislaine Maxwell, in which Epstein recounted his lawyer's account of a phone call with Trump, as Raskin previously told reporters, quote, Trump is paraphrased and quoted as saying, no, Jeffrey Epstein was not a member of Mar-a-Lago, but he was a guest at Mar-a-Lago, and no, we never asked him to leave. Raskin said in an interview at the Capitol. Okay, you literally can't trust a single thing this man has ever said, Donald Trump. You just can't. He just makes shit up relentlessly. Trump has denied all wrongdoings in the Epstein matter, and he's maintained that he kicked Epstein out of Mar-a-Lago for poaching spa workers. The former Palm Beach chief of police testified to the FBI in 2019 that following Epstein's arrest in the early 2000s, Trump claimed he threw Epstein out of Mar-a-Lago. Trump reportedly also told the police chief then that everyone has known he's been doing this, and that Maxwell is evil, and to focus on her. Remember when they got into a property dispute? Epstein told Trump, I'm going to get this property. Trump swooped in and bought it out from underneath him. Then Trump took that property, which he bought for about $40 million, sold it for about $90 million at the peak of the Great Recession to a Russian fertilizer oligarch. And Epstein in the emails and the Epstein files basically said, yeah, he was money laundering. He was money laundering for like the Russian mob. So that there was a temporary breakup in their relationship over that fact, right? But Trump pretends like it had nothing to do with that. And it was, oh yeah, he was a creep. No, Trump was sending the girls from the spa at Mar-a-Lago to Epstein and knew he was doing it and wanted to do that. Okay, when I saw this story, I literally didn't believe it. I was like, no, that's not right. I thought I must have misread it. So let me actually show you the title here. This was in the New York Post. March for Billionaires to hit San Francisco streets on Saturday. And then it says, yes, it's real. Now, when I first read that, my brain wouldn't accept it. My brain was like, I'm misreading it, or they miswrote it. What they meant to say was like March Against Billionaires, like anti-billionaire march or something like that. No, March for Billionaires. For shit sure, we're about to find out at some point who funded this shit, right? We don't know right now, but my guess is Mark Andreessen or fucking Peter Thiel or one of those assholes funded, because this is not, who organically is sitting around going, I know I make $60K a year, but I'd like to offer a massive thank you to Elon Musk, who has $850 billion. Okay? He's got more money than the GDP of like a fucking mid-sized country. Thank you, Elon Musk, for asking women to jack you off for a horse in return and for blowing up 12 rockets on any given random Wednesday. I appreciate that. Keep that $850 billion. I'll be over here with my 60,000. I can, my Toyota Camry just fell apart and I don't have enough money to fix it. But I'd like to thank you for everything you've done for this country. Like, what? What do we do? So I don't know the funding, but I'm speculating that there's some weary funding behind it in the first place. But March for Billionaires in San Francisco. All right, so you ready? Let me show you some of this. Here you go. We got some pictures that came out of it. Oh, prepare yourselves. Billionaires build prosperity. Keep them in California. Marchforbillionaires.org. Oh, this is such a cucked slave peasant mindset. Billionaires build prosperity? I don't know if you guys have noticed. Billionaires, their PR just shit the bed and jump the shark. All the billionaires are in the Epstein files. The Epstein class was just outed as being the parasites on society. They think you're subhuman. They think you're less than them. They look at you as something to be exploited. They look at you as a meat sack to fuck and then dispose of with sulfuric acid and drop into the ocean from the bottom of the mansion at Rape Island. Okay? This is how they look at you. Billionaires build prosperity, keep them in California. So, by the way, what they're actually protesting against is there was a proposed 5% billionaire tax in California. By the way, you know who's on their side? Gavin Newsom. I'm not kidding. I wish I was kidding. I wish the Gavin that fights on his press account, I wish that was the real Gavin. It's not. Remember, Gavin threw his own press office account under the bus when the press office account rightly said that ICE were terrorists. Okay? He did an interview with Ben Shapiro. He goes, yeah, that was hyperbolic. It went too far. Guys, it is a lie cooked up by billionaires that, oh, if you tax us a little more, we're all just going to leave. It's just so crazy. It's just so crazy. It's so crazy that the bottom 50% of Americans hold 2.6% of the wealth, and these motherfuckers are protesting to pity the poor billionaires. What about pity the poor bottom 50%? What about pity the poor bottom 90%? The top 3 richest billionaires have more wealth than the bottom 50% combined. And you're doing this woe is me bullshit. And by the way, as I always point out when we discuss billionaires, remember that 60% of billionaires came from extreme privilege. So the idea that it's just a meritocracy and they just work the hardest and they're just the smartest, that's completely factually wrong. And that should be obvious now to people, especially looking at idiots like fucking Mark Andreessen and Peter Thiel, who literally can't even get through a sentence without stuttering 78 times and looks like his fucking oily face is like he just got caught eating the intestines of a baby on camera and he's like sitting there sweating and having a nervous breakdown. He's a second away from a nervous breakdown at every moment. Fucking Elon Musk, who's the dumbest motherfucker on the planet, who lies and does vaporware on a regular basis. And this motherfucker's worth $850 billion when he's stolen $38 billion from American taxpayers and blown up 12 motherfucking rockets and gets caught doing another fraudulent scheme every other week. And we're supposed to support these people? We're supposed to care about these people? How about they fucking care for us? How about they pay their taxes and they support us and they give people health care and education and they fix this country and make this country better? God, I can't stand these people, man. I can't stand these people. So, nobody is a bigger political enemy of mine than the people at the pro-billionaire march. I need to make that clear. Because their whole conception of the world and their whole conception of politics is dead wrong. It is the exact opposite of the truth. We all know what the Republican mindset is. The Republican mindset is blame trans people for your problems and blame immigrants for your problems. Those are the scapegoats. You blame them. They're why you're struggling. They're why you can't pay the bills. And, they're coming here and taking your money through taxes and in social programs and yada, yada, yada. And it's bullshit. It's total horseshit. It's literally scapegoating 101. The real problem are the parasitic shadow government of billionaire pedophile elites who are incredibly sadistic and have rigged the system in their favor and against you. And they literally look at you as less than human. And so that's why they've rigged the tax laws. They always get a tax break. You always get a tax increase. That's why they've rigged it so they get tax subsidies, literal money directly from American taxpayers. That's why they've rigged it so that money in politics rules the day. And they have more money than you do, so they own the politicians, and you can't get them to fucking respond to you no matter what. Okay? They are the problem. They are the problem. They are why we don't have Medicare for all. They are why we don't have free college. They are why wages are low. It's literally all at their feet. And this is what happens when you let capitalism run wild. Finally, and this is probably my favorite one. Here we go. Here we go. This is where he really lays it on thick.
The halftime show was in Spanish and all the performers were brown people. The message was, this is what America looks like, a mosaic of Latin peoples. Clearly it was political. Clearly it was a middle finger to white people. Weird take. Are you even a white nationalist at this point?
Honestly, I don't feel like one anymore. I feel like, do I want America to be a white country? Yes. I'm pro-white, but the movement has just been captured by losers and idiots. And I don't really, I'm kind of just done pandering. I fucking hate these people.
By the way, he says, no, I'm not a white nationalist, but do I want the country to be white? Yeah. This is what, so somebody super chatted into Kylan Corn the other day, and he was a Nick Fuentes fan. And he basically said, like, stop saying that Nick wants to, like, mass deport all non-white people. That's a lie. You're lying about him. And what I said in response was like, bro, that's me being like really kind and steel manning his white nationalist position, right? Because shit, he's praised Hitler. I could say he probably wants to gas chamber these motherfuckers or lock them up permanently. But I was being overly kind by saying he at the very least wants to deport all the non-white people. And then here he is. He goes, no, I don't think I'm a white nationalist anymore. But do I want this to be a white country? Yeah. Okay, well, what does that mean? What does it mean to, quote, be a white country? What does that mean? Are black and brown people allowed to stay, but they have to become official second-class citizens, like they don't get constitutional rights? Is that what it is? Or is it deporting those people? Or is it locking them up permanently just because of the color of their skin? I genuinely don't know. But none of it is good. But none of it is good. But this is what his own audience is also confused, right? Like, which is why that person super chatted in and said the most confusing shit in the world. Like, Don't say that about Nick. That's not true. Well, then what the fuck is true about Nick? Tell me what his actual fucking position is. Because when I listen to him, he'll give me one on Monday and a second one on Tuesday, a different one on Tuesday, right? So maybe it's all just like, it's all a show. It's all a grift. It's all like he's playing a role. He's playing a character. And every now and then, the mask slips and he has moments like this because you guys infuriate him so fucking much because you're such predictable dipshits that he has to do this.
When I look at what the movement has become, like the kind of impulses that have captured it, it's just kind of depressing. And I've always been forward thinking, and I've always been heterodox, and I've always been progressive in a way. And increasingly, I don't feel like I fit in with that anymore. You know? So no, I don't think I'm like you.
I wanted to also shout out this guy, Robert Kagan, who's a conservative historian, and he is sounding the alarm. Okay, he said, quote, "I think we are one big step into dictatorship already." Well, I think we are one big step into dictatorship already. It's not clear to me that any institution in the United States is really prepared to stand up to Donald Trump. It seems the only people who are willing to stand up to Trump are average American citizens in Minneapolis and elsewhere, and God bless them for that. But the U.S. Congress, both parties, are unwilling to really fight Trump. The Republicans have become the party of dictatorship, so I think we are one deep foot into dictatorship, and I'm worried, as I've said and others have been pointing out, about whether we will even have free and fair elections in 2026, let alone in 2028. I think Trump has a plan to disrupt those elections, and I don't think he's willing to allow Democrats to take control of one or both houses, as could happen in a free election. So yeah, man, there's the warning, and this is coming from a conservative. I've been giving it to you. Now a conservative's giving it to you. And the fact of the matter is, the courts need to be brought in on this. They need to know, hey, here's going to be Trump's plan. This is how it's going to unfold. You need the Democratic state officials to be in on this. You need the state National Guard in on this. You need the cops in on this. You need to let them know, hey, Trump is going to do, if there's a red mirage scenario, which is likely, Trump is going to say, oh, fraud is happening now that the mail-in votes are being counted and Democrats just overtook the lead, so send in the National Guard, or send in the military, or send in ICE to go seize the ballots. And we need cops to block ICE or whoever it is from illegally trying to seize the ballots. Okay? We need court injunctions. Like, we can't let them ever get custody of those ballots, because the second they do that, that's it. You're never going to know the actual winner of the election. You're never going to know the specifics, because you break down the chain of custody and it's a wrap. It's over. Those shits could be tainted with, it'll be a mess. And we know he never loses gracefully. It's never fucking happened. Okay? And he's about to lose massively. So it's just, again, everybody needs to wake the fuck up as to what's going to happen. And everybody needs to prepare. And I don't think many people are prepared. I think Democrats largely have shoved their head in the sand. Certainly elected Democrats. And that's unacceptable. All right, so this is end times type stuff here, or certainly the collapse of a country type stuff here. Moderna CEO announced that the company will no longer invest in new phase 3 vaccine trials for infectious diseases. You cannot make a return on investment if you don't have access to the U.S. market. Vaccines for the Epstein-Barr virus and herpes and shingles have been shelved. So now you got these companies working on vaccines for all these things that we need vaccines for, and now they go, I guess let's stop that. Why? Well, because vaccines are not really in vogue at the moment, and they're not popular at the moment, and HHS is run by RFK Jr., the biggest anti-vax crank in the country. And the current market conditions are not right for us to really go down that path, because we don't know how profitable it'll be. Like, do you see the problem yet here with capitalism? And do you see the problem with electing the biggest fucking idiots in the country? Like, now, I mean, this is societal suicide. Basically, what this country just did is they took a loaded gun, pointed it at its dick, and shot its dick off. That's what this is. This is the functional equivalent of a country shooting its dick off. Like, guys, 95% of the countries on Earth are smart enough to know, if you have the ability to do the research to create new vaccines, you do that research, you create the new fucking vaccines. Like, there are literally no downsides to that. But now, the people who run the country are so fucking brainwashed that they're all in on the anti-vax grift. And so, they've effectively scared these companies out of doing it. And the companies think, well, there's going to be no profit in it because we're going to have to jump through 1,000 regulatory hurdles because they're going to block us from basically doing this. So they're just waving the white flag. I mean, it's just God damn it. Again, the speed with which this country came unglued is the most astonishing part. It's the speed with which everything fell apart.
So the other week on the show, we talked about how they are currently building a bunch of former warehouses that they're retrofitting to become ICE concentration camps. Okay? I believe the number we came across in the articles we read, it was 23 different former warehouses that are becoming concentration camps. Well, apparently Migrant Insider has this new article out, and Pablo Reports, the Twitter account, he does phenomenal work on this. It's his reporting, and there's this other mechanism that they're using by which they're basically increasing the funding massively. So they have this colossal budget to build out these like ghost concentration camps around the country. Now, this should scare everybody to fucking death, okay? We already know this regime sent people to CCOT in El Salvador. Well, guess what? There's detailed reporting. People were raped and tortured there. They were raped and tortured. They were so desperate, they cut their hands, were bleeding, and would write messages into their on their sheets with the blood from their hand. This is a nightmare. This is an absolute nightmare. But this gets even darker. I know you're going, hold on, Kyle. How can it get darker than literal concentration camps? Oh, it can. Oh, it can. And it's going to. I hope you're ready. Here we go. Medical and death. The services extend to medical waste management with specific protocols for biohazard incinerators. Incinerators. So in the reporting on this from Migrant Insider, again, I'll read this for you one more time. In fact, here, I'll click it and make it bigger. Medical and death. The services extend to medical waste management with specific protocols for biohazard incinerators and certified inventory of evidence reports for full-service laundry operations. In other words, in Trump's network of concentration camps, they're building incinerators. 4,000 people are missing from ICE custody. Lawyers can't find them. Family members can't find them. Friends can't find them. There's been at least 40 people who've died in ICE Gestapo custody under Trump's second regime. One of them, there was evidence, was literally lynched, found hanging with his hands tied and his feet tied. And that's just one person. There's horror stories that are beyond imagination. Even other ICE agents have come out. Some of them have retired and resigned from ICE, and they're telling their stories. And they're saying stuff like, look, I'm against undocumented immigration, but this is treating people in a way that is just not, like, you're immoral. You're unethical if you do this thing. This is torture. This is torture. This is taking away their human rights. These are right-wing people who are retiring and going, I've seen this in the history books, if you know what I'm saying. Incinerators in the concentration camps. In fact, here, let me give you this. I read the Trump-backed voter suppression bill, the so-called Save America Act, so you don't have to. Here's my summary, okay? Please tell your senators to vote no on this abomination. And here's what this says. Beware the Trump-backed so-called Save America Act. It requires that states establish voter purge programs using systems that experts call unreliable, such as the DHS's SAVE system, as updated by DOJ and the Social Security Administration's verification system. By the way, there's already reports. They're wrongly kicking people off the voter rolls. If you're an American citizen, but you happen to be born overseas, they're just kicking those people off either way, even though they can't do that. Number 2, subjects election officials to citizen suits and potentially prison time for a single erroneous registration, even if the voter is a citizen, but not for erroneous voter purges. Number 3, requires that anyone registering to vote or changing their registration or re-registering after a faulty voter purge prove their citizenship in person with approved documentation, such as a U.S. passport, an expensive option that many voters lack. Omits real IDs from the list of approved registration documents, unless the real ID indicates that applicant is a U.S. citizen, a requirement that excludes most real IDs because only 5 states issue real IDs that indicate citizenship, or the real ID is presented with a certified birth certificate that matches the real ID, which won't work for up to 69 million women whose last names don't match their birth certificates. That's the other. So, massive attempt to disenfranchise women. That's what this is. Wake up. Wakey, wakey. Massive attempt to disenfranchise women. Oh, did you get married? Did you change your name? Guess you're fucked, son. Guess you got to deal with that. They're making it so it's like, hey, if you go and vote, bring your passport, bring your driver's license, bring your real ID, bring your birth certificate. Like, who even knows where the fuck some of that shit is, right? It omits marriage certificates from the list of approved registration documents, effectively disenfranchising the women in the 4B category above, unless they can afford passports. won't let you cast a ballot without voter ID documents that, again, prove you are a U.S. citizen. So, again, understand what this is, guys. There is no actual problem here. They're making it seem like, oh, voter fraud is a huge problem. No, it's not. They've done studies on this. A right-wing think tank did a study, and what did they find out? There were 77 instances of voter fraud for 24 years. That is literally like 0.000007% of votes. No impact on the elections whatsoever. Not even a little bit. So what they're trying to do, and this is the main point, and they know this, what they're trying to do is just put up multiple hurdles to try to block people from voting. The more of a pain in the ass you make it, the more people will throw their arms up and say, fuck it, I'm just not going to vote. And listen to this back and forth. Here we go.
So Hillary Clinton said in an interview today that she and her husband are getting pulled into the Epstein matter to divert attention from you and that your administration has something to hide. What's your response to that?
I have nothing to hide. I've been exonerated. I have nothing to do with Jeffrey Epstein. They went in hoping that they'd find it and found just the opposite. I've been totally exonerated. In fact, Jeffrey Epstein was fighting that I don't get elected with some author, the sleazebag, by the way. And I've been totally exonerated. No, they're getting pulled in. And that's their problem. I don't know. They're going to have to see what happens. But I watched her in Munich, and she seriously has Trump derangement syndrome.
Do you think she should publicly testify?
I've been totally exonerated on Epstein.
He keeps saying, totally exonerated.
And it's really interesting because they've been pulled in. Think of it. They've been pulled in. Clinton and many other Democrats have been pulled in, yeah.
So I saw somebody on Twitter said Bill Clinton was mentioned 1,800 times in the Epstein files. Yeah, Donald Trump was mentioned 1,000,000 times. It's like 900-something thousand times. I need everybody to share this video far and wide because I'm about to break down for you just how exonerated Trump really was in the Epstein files. Like he seems to think he is. He doesn't actually think so. He's just pretending. But Donald Trump was Epstein's best friend for a decade, and we know that because Epstein is on a literal audio tape saying that, okay? Trump was on Epstein's plane 8 times, that we know of, and he went to the island. This is all in the files. The first time Trump and Melania had sex was on the Lolita Express, which is Epstein's plane. Epstein knew the inner workings of the Trump White House in the first term, and again, we have that on literal audio tape. Trump and Epstein shared a girlfriend, y'all. They shared a girlfriend. Epstein also passed off a 20-year-old girl to Trump in 1993. All of this stuff is recorded. All of this stuff is in the files. All this stuff is in the reporting that's happened around the files. Trump wrote that creepy love letter to Epstein on his birthday and drew a picture of what looked like a prepubescent girl and said, let every day be another wonderful secret, Jeffrey. We sure do have a lot of things in common, don't we? We sure. What are those things, Don? Care to elaborate? Do you care to elaborate? How about this one? People don't talk about this one a lot, but we learned this in the files. Trump offered Epstein a job in his first term. Epstein allegedly learned some of the tricks of human trafficking from Trump's teenage modeling agency. Epstein wanted to also do a teenage modeling agency and model it after Trump's agency, okay? This is the stuff they don't want you to know. This is the stuff Trump is terrified of getting out there where everybody's talking about it. Trump hosted a private event with teen models at Mar-a-Lago, and there was one other person there, Jeffrey Epstein. Never mind the fact, Michael Wolff told us, Epstein showed him a picture of Trump, where Trump is surrounded by girls of an uncertain age, is the terminology he used. And I think one of them was bending over and pointing at him and laughing, and he had a stain on his pants. I wonder what kind of stain was on his pants. There's a picture of Trump buying a girl from Epstein, a depreciated girl from Epstein. He was giving him a big check at Mar-a-Lago to buy that girl. Trump was still close with Epstein in his first term, despite lying about the fact that he broke up with him way before then, okay? Remember, Epstein started leaking stuff to the media about Trump before he died in the custody of the feds. He was just starting to say stuff, and he died in the custody of Donald J. Trump. In 2011, Trump spent hours with an Epstein victim at Epstein's house. And we know that because of an Epstein email that came out from 2011 where he says exactly that. Trump's at the house right now, and he's there with one of the victims, and he's been there for hours. Which means, since Epstein's houses are bugged, they have tapes, they have videos, they have tapes, they have pictures, they have everything you can imagine of Trump committing crimes.
All right, guys, I got some big breaking news that came out today here for you. So NPR found 53 missing Trump pages in the Epstein files, okay? And come to find out, they were able to deduce that these are about Trump. These are missing Epstein files about Trump that the FBI and the DOJ are illegally redacting. So that, right off the bat here, is a massive, massive deal. But after that, we learn, listen to this, quote, MS Now reports there is at least one witness for whom 3 interviews with the FBI in rapid succession in 2019 are missing from the Epstein files. We can also confirm That woman is the same person who in a 2025 FBI presentation is identified to have accused Donald Trump of sexual assault when she was between 13 and 15 years old. So what we've been able to find out is, ladies and gentlemen, this is about Katie Johnson. For those of you who don't know, look it up immediately. Type into the YouTube search bar, Secular Talk Katie Johnson. We covered her whole interview. Now, she's using an alias. Her real name is not Katie Johnson, okay? And she also blurred her face. But she told her story in the past because in 2016, she sued both Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein for trafficking her, Donald Trump for sexually assaulting her and graping her. And she said, for example, that Trump forced her to give him a hand job, also got violent with her and I think other girls as well, that effectively it was like, Epstein had sex slaves and he was trafficking these girls and Donald Trump would frequent these Epstein orgies. And she's told her story for a long time. Now, what happened was in 2016, she ended up dropping the case and people speculated, well, okay, did she get paid off to drop the case? That's a possibility because, again, the lawsuit came during the first Trump campaign in 2016. Or the other thing people said was maybe she got threatened. Maybe she got threatened. There's been accusations of Trump threatening people who, have damning information on him for a long time. So maybe she was threatened and that's why she dropped the lawsuit, okay? Well, apparently the FBI thought Katie Johnson's story was legitimate enough and credible enough to interview her 3 separate times. That was in the Epstein files, and that was illegally redacted by Pam Bondi. Insane. So this is, I've lost count. Have they violated the Epstein Transparency Act now 100 times? Is that what they've done? They're probably getting close to it, but I'll tell you this is the biggest one so far. Because now we're talking about potential smoking gun evidence, or as Trump would say, smocking gun evidence that the president of the United States is a pedophile rapist. That's what we're talking about here.
All right, the Cradle says Trump advisors want Israel to attack Iran first and let U.S. troops get hit to muster public support for war. Understand what they're saying here. Trump's saying, look, I want to help you, Israel. I want to do the war for you, Israel, but I need a little something more that I can use to justify it to the public. And so internally, Trump is telling Israel, you guys attack Iran first. Iran will then fire back and they'll, bomb U.S. military bases, for example. They have some ballistic missiles that could sink a U.S. ship, which would mean deaths of U.S. soldiers. Trump is literally saying, I will make a blood sacrifice of our own soldiers at the altar of the military-industrial complex to then turn around and justify to the American public, well, we have to go to war now. Iran just killed our people. What do you want me to do? But the whole thing is planned out. The whole thing is staged. He's saying, Israel, you attack, you go on the offense. When Iran fires back and attacks us, I'll say that they did the offensive attack. Openly planning to lie about the chain of events. This is where we are now. People don't realize the nature, the true nature of these psychopaths and sociopaths. This is it. They're willing to sacrifice your kids. Earlier today, we discussed there was an attack that the Israelis did on a girls' school in Iran. They attacked a girls' school. Now, earlier the number was about 24 girls dead. It turns out that number has gone up and up and up since then. So the Telegraph said 51 schoolgirls were killed and 60 were injured when a strike hit a girls' elementary school, okay? Since this came out, I've seen another number that now it's up to 84 girls were killed. So this is an atrocity. This is a war crime. And this is what Israel does. They attack schools. They attack hospitals. They attack UN buildings. They attack refugee camps. This is what they did in Gaza. They basically got away with it. And now they're going to try to get away with it in Iran as well. Absolutely disgusting. And I want you to stop and think for 1 second. What if Iran did that to us? Or what if Iran did that to Israel? Where in the first wave of attacks, they killed 84 little kids. What would our reaction be, and what would the media say, right? It would be a totally different picture. Instead, this story comes out, you're going to hear me talk about it, but it's largely going to be buried, and people will continue to pretend like this is a just war, okay? Let me continue. have heard from an Iranian friend, says Tariq Ali on Twitter, that her partner in Tehran has sent her a message. He is a leftist and is telling her that the U.S. and Israelis are targeting a number of known leftist homes in Tehran and elsewhere in an attempt to make sure there's no opposition to their favorite candidate once they destroy the regime. What this reveals is the degree of penetration by Mossad in Iran. What it also means is that this is not going to be an easy occupation for the U.S. and its Israeli buddies. So, and there's a number of different pieces of evidence coming out that they're indeed targeting left-wingers who have some semblance of a following and could unite the country and could bring about like real democratic change, okay? So that is a devastating thing because, like I said, the goal at the end of the day is either balkanization and make it a failed state, or bring the son of the Shah in and have him be the new Shah, the new dictator. That's what I think they want. That's what's on the menu for them, and so that's why they're targeting left-wing leaders.